Hi, everyone. I would like to welcome today's guest, Sue Gloor. She serves as the Northeast Division Vice President for the Lupus Foundation of America, the region that extends from Delaware to Maine and includes 10 states. In this position, Sue, along with her team, oversees educational awareness, fundraising, advocacy, and patient engagement activities. Sue joined the LFA 8 years ago and has spent the majority of her career in the nonprofit world. She enjoys the opportunity to partner with colleagues, volunteers, the corporate community, and others to make a difference. And you definitely do. I can
Oh,
speak from experience because we've worked together now for quite a while.
yeah, I think we probably met 7.5 years ago, and it's been wonderful getting to know you and so many wonderful volunteers.
I really enjoy the walks all these years. I think I started back in 2013 as a participant, and then I joined the committee and joined multiple committees and also became an advocate as well. So it's been a very wonderful learning experience for me. I could not have gone through my lupus journey without the LFA.
Well, I think it's a mutual thing that, I learned so much from people living with lupus about what their day-to-day experience is, and it's inspires us to continue to work very hard because we know that there are many, many challenges people with lupus face.
Yeah, I was talking with my doctor not long ago. I'm down at Columbia Presbyterian, and I was asking her about the majority of the symptoms of lupus because it's different from person to person. As we know, not one person has the same symptoms. We might have the same disease. I have systemic lupus erythematosus, but another person might have lupus nephritis or discoid lupus. And there's really nothing that any of us have in common with each other. I was thinking about that. I would like my symptoms, for example, I have a butterfly rash, I have a lot of joint pain, and I also have skin rashes that I get on my body other than the butterfly rash. Can you talk about, with some of your experiences, maybe what are some of the other symptoms that you have seen on patients that have lupus?
I mean, it's such a really important point that you're making, Colleen, because one of the reasons that lupus is so hard to diagnose is we talk about it as a heterogeneous disease, meaning that if we had, 50 people in a room with lupus, it's almost like 50 different diseases. Some people, it can affect any organ of the body, and it takes sometimes up to 5 or 6 years to diagnose. It might be joint pain. It could be fatigue. It could be skin rashes. It could be kidney involvement, cardiac involvement. There's just a multitude of symptoms, and a lot of people who have lupus also have other conditions that are part of their autoimmune challenges, like Sjogren's syndrome is a very common one that a number of people have who are also dealing with lupus. So, most of the time when you start not feeling well, if your joints were bothering you, you'd probably go to an orthopedist. If you sense that you might have kidney involvement, you might go to a nephrologist. And so that's part of the challenge of diagnosing is nobody's really seeing the overall picture. And a lot of times when they wind up getting recommended to a rheumatologist, that's when somebody starts to put the different things together and say, this is looking like something autoimmune and possibly lupus, and then really working to get that diagnosis for people.
Right, because you mentioned Sjogren's, I have that as well, and I have a couple of other autoimmune diseases going on. So the symptoms vary for me too. Like my hair falls out in the shower constantly. I am easily exposed to the sun. When I went to Florida a couple of weeks ago, I got very badly sunburned and I wasn't even out in the sun for very long.
Mhm.
Um, High photosensitivity to sun. And it's interesting to learn what fixes certain problems, yet other times when you take a medication or you try a different diet or routine like the gluten free, it can also make other things worse too. So it's kind of like you try to do what's best for the overall body, which you get more benefit from to help you become more healthy and manage the disease. Uh,
One of the things we talk about as one of our guiding principles is that we want people to have a safe and effective arsenal of treatments. And I think that goes to exactly what you just said, because there are treatments that, particularly steroids, that people are affected by in many ways. And so sometimes people feel like they're worse off on the steroids than they were with whatever symptoms they're having. So we know we have to continue to do fund the research that will provide, the treatments that won't exacerbate things for people.
Right, and that's one of those things that we talk about when we go to Capitol Hill, for example. We talk about how there's only been like one or two medications over the last 50 years that have been developed for lupus. I know there's a couple of new things coming out right now, Benlysta, which I haven't tried yet. There's a Rencia and a few other medications that my not my dermatologist, my rheumatologist has brought up to me. But a lot of them, like I've learned, are in injection form because I have some neurological issues. I struggle with giving an injection to myself. So now
Mhm.
that I live at home, that's a challenge for me. So I really do need like more an easy way to take the medication, like in a pill form. And sometimes they have them and sometimes they don't. Like methotrexate I took for a while, but then I got stomach issues from that medication. So the cost of that medication. I remember 2 years ago when we were at the summit in DC, we fought to put a cap on medications. I think it was $2,000 for certain types of prescriptions because the cost is just phenomenal. This methotrexate, for example, was $500 per bottle of prescription. It shouldn't be like that. So
Yeah.
that's
And I
one of
think
those things.
I think people get confused too because if you know somebody living with lupus, chances are they're taking a lot of medications. And so when we talk about medications that have been approved for lupus, there's only been there was one for the majority of time. And in the last couple of years, two more have been approved and one has been approved for an additional use. But there are many off-label medications that people are prescribing to their patients. So they're not developed specifically for lupus patients, but so it can be a little confusing to people because they might tell you, I'm taking 6 prescriptions or I have 8 prescriptions. So again, that's why Colleen mentioned going to Capitol Hill. So we have an annual summit in Washington, D.C. This year will be taking place May 19th and 20th. And so we have people from all over the country come together. Colleen's been a part of it. And we get information and updates from the government, from researchers, from the pharmaceutical industry. And that's a part that anybody can participate in remotely. You can sign up for the summit and at lfa.org. And that way you can participate and hear all of the presentations. And then on Tuesday, we have appointments with our legislators on Capitol Hill, both our senators and our congressional representatives, our Congress folks. And if you are remote and you're not participating in the summit on site with us, you can sign up to be an e-advocate. And on that day, as we're going up to Capitol Hill to talk about the importance of funding for lupus research and some other additional asks that we'll be making this year, you can also support them by communicating with your representatives right from your laptop or your computer. So I definitely encourage people to go to lupus.org and learn more about that.
I've really enjoyed my time when I go down to Washington, D.C. with the group because you get to meet a lot of different people who have lupus and also educating myself from the doctors who give the presentations at
Mhm.
these events as well. I know my own rheumatologist, Dr. Anka Oskanase, has been there many times and she gives talks about lupus within Columbia University and in the surrounding areas is doing one, I think, in this month. Am I correct? At Columbia?
She's actually speaking for us on June 8th
Okay.
at Columbia. She is our keynote speaker for our Lupus and You Empowerment Conference. We're very excited. Um, Dr. Oskanase has a wonderful way of taking very complex information and making it understandable. So she's a very compassionate rheumatologist. Her patients love her, as Colleen will share, I'm sure. But
Yes.
sometimes trying to understand very complex issues, it's hard to get somebody who can kind of translate them to language that everybody understands. And I think that's a gift she has.
Absolutely. I would recommend her 100% over because she's been working with me now for almost 10 years. And she basically goes through, the whole process. And there's so many tests and things that she does that when I'm out in Connecticut here, the doctors that have the smaller practices don't have the ability to be able to do the testing that she does at the center in Columbia, the hospital there. So that's why I chose to go there instead of somewhere local because I was getting conflicting information from different doctors too. And that's the thing, as we said, no two lupus patients have the same symptoms, the same, what's the word I'm trying to think of? Not symptoms, but maybe criteria.
Mhm.
There's a lot of criteria that you have to fall in to meet the diagnosis of lupus as well, and which I do fall in that multiple times. So I was, really relieved when she said, no, it's not you, it's not the doctors, it's a very complex disease. And, I can break it down for you and tell you why you have lupus versus something else. So that's how we got to know each other, basically by me going there and she doing her thorough work, blood test every single time, x-rays, whatever needed to be done, she did it. And I can tell you, yes, she's amazing. And I've also learned that, there are some new clinical trials through speaking with her because I have participated in them. Is there anything new that you can share with us that might be of value to anybody who might be thinking they might have lupus?
So we have a program called RAY, Research Accelerated by You, and it's something that you can sign up for, and you can share your information about your diagnosis. It's de-identified, so nobody will know that it's your particular symptoms. But as part of RAY, you can look and search for clinical trials in your area, clinical trials that you meet the criteria for, because it is a way. One of the things we talk a lot about with patients is empowerment. There are a lot of things about having lupus that you have no control over, but there are things that you can do that really people feel are very empowering to them. One is driving research forward. So by participating in clinical trials, that's a way that you can contribute. It's really important that the patient experience and the patient voice is shared with researchers so that they really understand what the experience is. So I highly recommend, again, that you go to lupus.org and look up RAY, R-A-Y. And this is a place where you can go in and then again, search for kind of what's happening in your area in terms of clinical trials.
I participated in one a few years ago. It was a synthetic marijuana study. And it actually did help the joint pain, but then I developed some other issues, so I ended up stopping the study. But it was very valuable to me because I did realize that there were some of that medication that it really did significantly help the pain. And we had to test our pain levels every day and record them and send them in. And you didn't know if you were on the placebo or the regular medication either. So that was an interesting theory to be a part of. And I know too, like we have walks every year. Can you share us a little bit more about the walks coming in our area?
Sure. Yeah. So we have, I imagine that your podcasters could be anywhere in the country listening to you. But here in the Northeast Division, we have walks. Boston is the farthest north, Hartford, Connecticut, Norwalk, New York City, North Jersey, South Jersey, Philadelphia, Delaware, Central Pennsylvania. So there's walks all over. They all take place in the fall. And so you can go to lupus.org. You can search. There's on the top bar, it says get local. And if you go into get local and put in your state, you can see what's happening by you. We have these empowerment conferences that I mentioned. The one in New York City is June 8th, but we also have one coming up on Saturday, May 18th up at Yale New Haven Health, where Dr. Fotios Kampouris is our keynote speaker.
Oh.
And so we're doing those throughout the country as well.
And I know too, we have our Put on Purple party.
Yeah, the Put on Purple parties are a celebration of our previous year's walk success, where we thank all our teams, our sponsors, our top walkers. Colleen is probably going to be a little humble, but she's been one of our top walkers consistently and won many awards at the parties. And so it's a great opportunity to recognize people and then to kick off the following year. And Colleen's already hard at work raising money for the walk, which takes place in October.
Yes, we've raised almost a little over $5,000 so far.
It's
So hopefully I
fantastic.
can reach my goal this year. It seems a little slow, but I know it will pick up. It has moments of, going up and down. I really appreciate the time, Sue, that you have taken to meet with me today. Is there anything else that you feel we can share with our listeners today about lupus?
I would just say the most important thing is you are the CEO of your own body and your own health. Nobody knows what you're experiencing more than you. So, we try to provide tools. We have a National Resource Center on lupus where there's articles, podcasts, and expert series, lots of information. But we really want people to be prepared when they go and talk to their provider about what your symptoms are, what you're experiencing, and to work hard not to be dismissed. One thing that's a little challenging, particularly for young women, and the average age of diagnosis for lupus, is really prime childbearing years for people, younger women. And so a lot of times we'll hear from younger people that they went in to their doctor and they said, well, I have joint pain. And they said, well, are you on the dance team or are you a cheerleader, or I have fatigue? And they said, well, you're probably burning the midnight oil. And then you leave really not getting any satisfaction. So we really try to encourage patients to be prepared to advocate for themselves with their care team, to make sure they're asking great questions and, really being a partner in their own healthcare.
I think that's a wonderful statement to share with everyone because, as I mentioned to you, it took me 6 different doctors before they even figured out what was wrong with me. And I felt confused. I felt, okay, well, if I don't have this, then I don't have this, then what do I have? And it made me think maybe I was a little bit not there because they would question me all the time. Why do your joints hurt? Oh, well, you broke your leg when you were, when you fell down the stairs in college. So that's why you have the inflammation and the swelling. I said, but I have this in the other leg. I don't have this in the leg that I broke.
Mhm.
And so, it was in other sections. And so eventually, through the testing and through many, 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 many doctors, I was able to be diagnosed with lupus. They said, this is what best fits you. And we will work with you to try to manage the symptoms as best as we can.
I just want to thank you for this. It's been wonderful getting to know you, getting to know Marley, your sweet little doggy, and your family who's been so supportive of you throughout this. So, we really are a family at the Lupus Foundation of America. And, you meet so many people. I know Colleen has formed many relationships. So I think that's another thing, is just having that community of support and other people who you can reach out to.
It's really important, especially when you're having a tough day. If the blood work came back negative or, positive in a bad way, you're just trying to put the pieces of the puzzle together because it really is a puzzle. They really don't have a cure for it. They're just able to manage it. And I know, like we talked about a while back about some of the studies with the T cells. Have they done any more research with that, or is that on a hiatus right now?
There's a number of organizations and companies, and there's doctors in our area that are conducting the CAR T cell therapy trials. Um, it is a little more challenging because it's newer information. It's been used in other disease states, but not in lupus. And it's for a very particular type of patient to enroll in them. But I know that there are, we had a doctor from Northwell Health who spoke on this for us last year about, what was involved in the CAR T therapies. So, research funding is so important because we know that we have work to do. As Colleen said, there's no known causes, there's no known cure. So we really want to continue to try and solve those answers.
And if anyone would like to participate in the walk, where is the best place for them to sign up?
If they go to lupus.org and get local, they can search by their state. And then once they click on that link, they'll see what activities are happening. And so they can participate in a walk, they can sign up to be an e-advocate, they can attend one of these empowerment conferences that we're hosting. We have a fantastic ambassador program, which Colleen is part of, where people go out in the community and they speak at health fairs and corporate lunch and learns and all kinds of events just to continue to raise awareness.
That's fantastic. I really appreciate the time you took to meet with us today, Sue. Is there anything else that you want to add, or do you think we've pretty much covered as much as we can about lupus in this time frame?
I think we've done a great job. Again, there's many, many resources available to you at lupus.org. There's the opportunity that if you think you might have lupus, you can click on that link and it'll take you through some information. If you're a caregiver, that's another big community that we haven't talked about today. But for everybody living with lupus, obviously, they have family members, friends, people who are part of their support journey. So we have resources for caregivers. We have information available in English and Spanish. So, if you're at all concerned or you have lupus or you think you might have lupus, we'd love to, share our resources to help you.
Thank you so much, Sue. It's been a pleasure, and I'll make sure to add the links below on this channel as well so that everybody knows exactly where to go. It's been a pleasure speaking with you today.
Thank you so much, Colleen. Have a great day.
Very welcome. You as well.